So you're playing through Phantasy Star 2, and it's got these 8 party members, right? So, while you're playing through the game, you might be wondering to yourself, who the hell are all of these people? Because all you really get in game is when they first join, they have this little monologue explaining who they are, why they want to join your party, and then there's also a bio you can view in the menus for each character. But other than that, once they join your party, they never speak again. You never get anything else on their character. So you're essentially just playing with 8 people that you have no idea who they are. So in an attempt to flesh out the characters from Phantasy Star 2, between 1990 and 1991, Sega released 8, one for each party member, 8 different text adventures for... It wasn't the Sega Channel. It was basically Japan's equivalent of the Sega Channel, where you could download games. They released 8 text-based downloadable games. And when I say text-based, I mean text-based. They mean text-based. Going in, I kind of expected these to be a little bit like Snatcher. Like the whole game would be centered around text prompts, but it would have plenty of animations and visuals to go along with said text prompts. But no, these are text adventures. This is the main interface which you're going to be looking at most of the time. All you really get is a character portrait, and once in a while, in the upper left, maybe you'll get another portrait of like an enemy you're fighting, but that's about it. These are bare bones, purely tell, don't show types of experiences. I theorize they did this to keep data sizes really small because they had to broadcast these games over download services in a pre-internet world. The games had to be compact enough that you were able to download them in a reasonable amount of time in 1990. So I think the heavily text-based approach was an attempt to keep file sizes down. Or maybe it was just easier to develop these, who knows? So doing something like this presents a unique set of challenges for me because there's no real visuals to show you while I'm reviewing the game. I mean, I could just have the basic text screen up the whole time, but that's a little boring, so I'm gonna treat this like a little book review. I've got videos of my playthroughs of all of the text adventures on my tablet here, and I'm just gonna read some excerpts, make some comments. This is gonna be a looser, more, awkward look at these things, I guess. So the first thing that really grinds my gears is that the fan translation kept the Japanese names. Like here, we have Eustace. Or wait, no, there's no T. Eusis? E-U-S-I-S? Which was apparently the Japanese name for Rolf. And I'm gonna say that universally across the boards, I believe we got the better names. So these are all prequels, and for most of these characters, we really don't know a whole lot about their past. These chronicle their journeys up until the point where Phantasy Star 2 begins. So for Eustace, or Eusis, or Rolf, I'm gonna be using the American names for this, the only thing we really get is if you read his bio, it says that A, he lost his parents at a very young age, and B, he's an agent for the government. Those are basically the only things we know about the guy going into this. And the text adventure starts us off right away by leaning into this. By age 11, Rolf was being raised in an orphanage, having lost both his parents to an accident the year prior. His talent at sports and excellent grades were widely regarded, and he was hailed throughout Paseo as a prodigy in the art of the sword. That intoxicating fame led to an overabundance of pride, and he grew haughty. So this is our main gameplay loop. We're presented with name of the place we're in, and then a description of the place we're in, and then we're given options to move, look, take, use, or drop. Move is pretty self-explanatory. You hit it and you're able to move to another room. Look is kind of like pressing A. It's the context-sensitive option. Like if there's a person in the room you want to talk to, you'll look at them and then you'll talk to them. If there's an object in the room you just want to see, then you hit look to look at it. You can look at the surrounding area, which sometimes reveals more details or objects that were not shown to you at first. Look is going to be the option you use the most. We've also got take, which a lot of times is needless because you automatically pick up most of the items you need. Like if somebody hands you an item, you don't need to use the take option, you just automatically get it. We've also got use, self-explanatory, use an item, and drop, which I never really had to use. I guess that's if you have too many items, because all of these have inventory limits. If you have too many items and you need to discard one, then drop is good. Most of the time, you only need to use an item one time, so, like, if you already used a key, chances are you're not going to need the same key again, but sometimes you do. So a lot of times it's safe to drop that key. Unless it's not safe to drop the key, you can always re-pick up items that you drop, so it's never a permanent loss. So we're in this orphanage. Rolf is the best fencer that we know of. He's a child prodigy fencer. So there's a guy named Dick and a girl named Shelly, and I think it's a law that if you're in a situation like this, that both male characters need to be in love with the girl. I'm not sure why, but both you and Dick are. So Dick tells you to bring this love note to her, and you just kind of steal it. You just pawn it off as your own. Like, you hand the love note to Shelly, and she's like, "Oh, Rolf, I had no idea you felt this way." And then you just don't correct her for some reason. And that's like the first thing you do in this game. It's like you're trying to make Rolf out like an asshole. A charming beauty, Shelly stared back at him intently. The feelings of love between them were just beginning to awaken. Why do we never see Shelly in Phantasy Star 2? She's just discarded, like, who cares? So it couldn't have awakened that much, I suppose. So we meet up with Dick, and he says, "I hear a superb fencer has been coming to the sword gym. Even you might not be a match for him," Dick said. And that is just unacceptable for our boy Rolf. There can't be a better fencer in the world than him. I'm the best! I'm the child prodigy. I mean, this guy at the sword gym is an adult man, and you would kind of expect to lose to him, but whatever. The only problem is the guard won't let you leave the orphanage, so after some light puzzle solving to sneak out, you go to the sword gym, and you meet this awesome fencer named O'Connor. I guess he's Irish. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, though, because before you go to the sword gym, you're free to roam around the city. And there's one thing I want to comment on. You can go to the airport, and it says this airport services flights between Paseo on one end and Uzo Island or Saikon on the other. Uzo Island? You mean that dungeon in Phantasy Star 2? That uninhabited island that's just a big-ass maze with some, like, trees at the top? There's commercial passenger travel there? Okay, I mean, that's not in Phantasy Star 2. They disabled that by the time the game happens. So we go to the sword gym, we fight O'Connor, and it's a forced loss. You're not supposed to win. I don't believe you can win this fight. And what happens next is the dumbest shit I have ever read in my life. Unable to bear the shame, Rolf dashed out of the gym, his sword still tightly held in his grasp. I've lost my self-confidence. How could I go on like this? Remember, this is a child losing a fencing duel to a full-grown man. It may be possible to reach O'Connor's level of skill through practice. I'll never get anywhere by moping. Training is the only path left now. So now, Rolf has this newfound sense of desire to get stronger. So he's going to hit the gym. He's going to go back to the sword training place harder than ever. He's going to come at O'Connor every day until he can beat him. Is the logical thing to do. But let's see what his big idea is. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? Uzo Island would be a good spot for you to go. It's uninhabited, but there's no better place for training than a solitary island. First things first, if you want to get better at like any discipline, being in solitary confinement is pretty much the worst idea. Like if you want to get better at any discipline, like iron sharpens iron. You don't go off by yourself and just like swing swords at the air. Or I guess in the logic of an RPG. You go to Uzo Island and you level grind on the random encounters there. So I guess in a way, in a roundabout way, this kind of makes sense. His stupid plan to go into solitary confinement on an uninhabited island. So you go to the airport, board a plane to Uzo Island, and then 8 years later, you live on this island for 8 years. Jesus fucking Christ. That's insane. You get a pretty Kino portrait change, though. So 8 years have passed. You go back to the orphanage, only to find that the exact same people that you knew from before are still there. Dick is still there, the same director, the same guard, and Shelly, you remember Shelly, the girl, has been kidnapped. Isn't she like an adult now, or close to it? And it turns out the person who kidnapped her was O'Connor. So you go, you track down O'Connor, and you fight him for the honor of this girl, I guess, that you liked 8 years ago but haven't seen. I don't know, I still can't get over the fact that everybody at the orphanage was the exact same after 8 years. That's incredibly dumb. So you fight O'Connor, and holy shit, I rolled 2 6s on the final boss. So that's right. I forgot to mention that all of the combat in this game is accomplished through dice rolls. So there's a huge random element to that. And if you die, you need to restart the entire text adventure over from the beginning. There's no saving, there's no checkpoints. So if you're gonna play through these, I would recommend save states. Anyway, I kick O'Connor's ass, and then the huge revelation happens. It turns out you were Truman Showed the whole time. All of this was a setup. It turns out that O'Connor was actually the president of Motavia, and he was looking for new agents to join his special government agency. And he heard that at this orphanage there was a kick-ass swordsman, but he was a shithead and he needed to learn humility. So he went to the orphanage, kicked your ass, or I guess you went to the sword gym nearby the orphanage. Well, anyway, you fight, he kicks your ass, and then it was all a part of his plan for you to go off and train in solitary confinement for 8 years. This is an 8-year-long long con just to get you to join his government force. And of course, having just all of this piled on top of you, you're like, oh yeah, you'll give me a job in the government? Sure, I'll take that job. That's the most batshit, insane backstory for somebody to become a government agent that you could possibly think of. Like, wow. I mean, it's been over a week since I played this, and I'm still in shock of how that played out. Which brings us to Nay's adventure. What we get in Phantasy Star 2 is Nay stared at me for a moment. I remember when we first met, she looked at me in just the same way. That was 7 months ago. Because she was the product of a mixture of human cells and those of a biomonster, she was an outcast from society. You were still small when we first met, but now you can take care of yourself. I'm going on a dangerous journey. Too dangerous for you. I worry about you like you were my sister. Then she forces herself to go with you, and the events of Phantasy Star 2 happen. Her pointy, cat-like ears gave her a strange appearance, but her mind was that of an ordinary young girl. Still, most people hated the biomonster blood that flowed through her veins. Even the joy of being part of a loving family had been snatched away from her in mere moments. It had happened about half a year ago. Nay had been all alone since her birth until a kind, middle-aged couple found and raised her. One fateful day, a violent mob assaulted their happy family and chased Nay with torches and sent her adoptive parents' house on fire. Trapped by the flames, the husband and wife had Nay escape through a dust chute. When she finally emerged from the sewers and made it above ground, Nay saw her home being consumed by a raging inferno in the distance. That was the day her endless solitude began. She had no home to return to anymore. No one awaiting her arrival. Which, Jesus fucking Christ, that's before the text adventure even starts. That's just backstory. And I think that was kind of a miscalculation on Sega's part. Because that's the most interesting thing to happen to her, and it just happens in an intro blurb before you even start playing. Most of her chapter consists of pretty much just wandering around, randomly stumbling across people that are either nice or not so nice to you. We know where she's going to end up. She's going to end up at Rolf's house somehow, but all of the heavy action already happened. I would have had the dramatic escape from the house, the burning of the house. That would have been what I based the text adventure around. So of the random people that we come across that are nice to us, we come across Rudo, and he gives us a silver bullet. There's also a child, a kid, who is pretty much the only other person who's nice to you on your first pass through around this game. There's also this old man who freaks the hell out when he sees you. An elderly man is seated behind a desk. Clearly a disciple of science, he is wearing a white lab coat steeped in the scent of pharmaceuticals. The man's eyes widened when he noticed Nay, who had silently crept up behind him. He withdrew an old notebook from a drawer and began pursuing it on the desk, repeatedly comparing its contents with Nay's appearance. No, it can't be. Impossible! This isn't the one I've been searching for. It should be younger and more like a cat. Those ears. He closed his eyes and started muttering to himself as he pondered this turn of events. And anything you do, you can't interact with him anymore. He just kind of is shell-shocked to see you, and you can't get any more of a response out of him. So you keep wandering around, you'll trade the silver bullet for a weapon, these claws used by the legendary warrior Meow, from the first game. It's a cute little Easter egg. Then you come across the hunter who killed your parents and burned your house down, and he's still out for blood. So you run away from him, only to find a man with a fencing trophy. Oh, it's Rolf. We've found Rolf. So I guess now he's going to go with us, and we're going to fight the hunter and end her chapter. Only no, that doesn't happen, at least not right away. Here's a pretty cute part. We go underground. We go into the sewer, and it mentions that the depths are, quote, pitch black. Yet Nay can still see down there because she's half cat. There's also another moment where you're outside of a house and you can hear the conversation happening inside the house. So it's like they gave Nay a couple of clear cat-like abilities. And that's very cool. She also grows during the chapter. Nay's thing is that she's a biomonster. She's like half cat, and cats age faster than humans. So throughout Phantasy Star 2, she gains levels faster than all the other characters. And in this, just during the course of the game, over the course of the game's events, she ages enough that her portrait actually changes, and that's very cool. So the game doesn't progress until you actually listen in on this conversation. It's a conversation between that hunter and the old man that was shell-shocked to see you earlier. It turns out that the old man is actually the guy who bioengineered you, but it's kind of like a Frankenstein's monster situation, where he becomes disgusted by his creation that he just kind of lets it escape, and he lets these two other scientists adopt you. But that's not enough. He begins to regret his creation so much that he hires this bounty hunter to have you killed. Now the bounty hunter is getting pissed off that he can't actually track you down. You're too nimble. You keep escaping his advances. So he basically just kills the old man so he doesn't have to do the bounty anymore. He just takes the money he was going to give him anyway. It all comes to a head when you confront the hunter, and right when it looks like you're fucked, when it looks like the hunter is going to finish you off, Rolf comes in to save the day, and he basically adopts you. For the first time since that incident half a year ago, she could believe in other people. Nay had regained a trusting heart. Never again would she have to try to fall asleep terrified within the shadows cast by boulders. Rolf, no matter what happens, I will always be at your side. Aw, isn't that just swell? Next we have Rudo's story, and he really doesn't say anything specific in his intro monologue. I'm sorry to intrude, but I have heard that Rolf and Nay are trying to solve the mystery of the biomonsters. I am a professional biomonster hunter. I have little talent, except that I am good with a gun. So that's basically nothing to go on, but then if you read his bio, he mentions that he had a wife and child which were killed by biomonsters. So through his bio, he actually ends up having one of the most concrete backstories to go off of in these text adventures. Pretty much what they say happens in his bio, that he has a wife and child and they are killed by biomonsters, that's basically all that happens in his text adventure. You start out and you're at work, then you hear that your hometown got attacked by biomonsters, so you go back only to find that your wife and child have died. Unfortunately, they've been attacked by a biomonster, so you spend the whole rest of the chapter tracking down this biomonster and then in the end killing him. And plot-wise, that's all that happens in Rolf's chapter. It's not like Pulp Fiction, where even though Nay met Rolf in her chapter, you never meet Nay in this one. So these text adventures don't all happen at the exact same time. They don't overlap ever. Even if you meet another character from Phantasy Star 2, which happens a few times in here, it's always at a different moment. None of these plot lines intersect, which would have been really cool if they did, but unfortunately they don't. Through playing all of these text adventures, I found that they did a pretty good job of making it so it's not too cryptic as to where you couldn't solve it. Like, you still need to think. You still need to, like, use all your objects with, like, anything you could logically think of to progress. Basically, I'm saying that it's not too cryptic that you can't figure these out, but it's cryptic enough that it's still fun. Lone exception of Rudo's chapter here, because throughout all of this, I only had to consult a guide 2 times, and both of those occasions were in this chapter. There's this one bit where you come across a waterfall, and anyone who's ever seen a waterfall in a video game knows that there's probably something behind that waterfall. So I was trying to go behind it or, like, do something to get it so that the waterfall would, like, I don't know, manifest a new path. And the solution is to take your shotgun and just shoot the waterfall, and that opens up the cave behind it. That's very stupid, and why would I think to do that? There's also another part where you come across a door, which they make clear that you need a jewel, a very specific and rare jewel to open, and I couldn't for the life of me find this jewel, and it turns out that the jewel is all the way back where you start. Basically, it's like one screen away from where you start the chapter, and you're supposed to know when you get like a ball of string and a stick that you can use that to go fishing in the pond in like one of the first screens. And this is like late in the chapter. The door is the last thing in the chapter, so you're all the way at the end, and you need to backtrack all the way to the beginning just so you can go fishing. And even like if that wasn't cryptic enough, you need to then know to use your knife on the fish to cut it open because the jewel is inside the fish. But other than like those 2 moments, I think they do a good job of making it like not too cryptic. The culprit ends up being this drill mole that you shoot a shitload of times with your shotgun and then he dies. The drill mole let out a deathly wail as it fell. Rudo continued blasting the monster with his weapon long after it was dead. He shot at the corpse until it disintegrated, but that didn't bring back his wife and child. Next up we have Anne, or Amy, as she's known in Phantasy Star 2, and she doesn't say a whole lot in her intro cutscene. I am Dr. Amy Sage. I heard that you are seeking to solve the mystery of the biomonsters. I will be glad to assist you, though I am not much of a fighter, but I can heal wounds. So yeah, almost nothing to go off of. Amy's chapter is cool because you spend a lot of your time healing people rather than fighting. A lot of these you'll come across like a random stray dog that you need to fight, or something stupid like that, or just like a little biomonster that they'll mix it up. Usually there's like 3 or 4 fights a chapter. Amy still has, I think, 1 or 2 fights, but the main thing you're doing is healing people. Like, the premise is you're at work at the hospital, then you receive word that this elementary school was attacked by biomonsters, so it's your job to go to the school and help these kids out. But a lot of her chapter ends up being busy work, because in order to get to the elementary school, there's a bridge, but the bridge is out, so you need to find another way to cross the river. So you need to go on this trading sequence where eventually you'll get a raft, but the raft has a hole in it, so you need to get glue. Then you use glue on the hole in the raft to fix it, but then you need an ore, so you find a stick. Then you take the stick to the wood shop, but the wood shop guy wants more money than you have to make it into an ore, so you need to find a way to make money. Then you find a nail puller in your house that you, like, barter to, like, get money or something. It's this really weird and convoluted trading sequence just so you can cross the river to get to the school. And even once you get to the school, you still aren't done, and you're still not, like, helping the kids, because it turns out that the biomonster is still in the school, and some random guy just shouts out, "Hey! You can't
beat the bio monster unless you have the silver ring.
Then your quest for the rest of the text adventure is just to find this silver ring. But you come across random people that you'll need to like use an antidote on them, and they'll like give you an item that you need for the trading sequence in return. You use a trimate to heal like a wounded dude who's just like laying on the side of the road. Just shit like that. And when you get to the final encounter with this monster, even though you're the one who found the silver ring, you're still not the one who ends up fighting him. It's this guy named Hines that you meet, who's like another doctor. He's like another Healy boy, but he's a guy, so he's stronger, so. Even though I'm pretty sure Amy did a decent job of holding her own in my party when I played through Phantasy Star 2. She wasn't like a worthless fighter, but no. She can't be the one who fights the final boss. No, I mean, as much as I kid, it's actually pretty cool that they invert what you would expect for the final encounter in this chapter. Instead of, directly fighting, it's your job basically to just heal Hines every turn. It's like he attacks the monster and then you heal him, and then he attacks the monster again and then you heal him. It's pretty cool. It has you playing another role in the party, because the rest of them, you're a fighter. In all the rest of these text adventures, you don't really do anything else. They had one idea. They had the idea that they're going to make you a healer, and they did a pretty good job. After that is Huey, or Hugh. I am Hugh Thompson, a biologist. I came when I heard about your quest. I value all life, including biomonsters. I'm willing to fight to defend weaker life forms, though. Perhaps my knowledge will be of help to you. Now, I didn't use Huey at all when I was playing through Phantasy Star 2. So he's basically like a completely brand new character to me. So his is like a B-horror movie. You're on a college campus and there's a biomonster on the loose. Ooh. And it's your job to go and track down the biomonster and get rid of him. Huey has a girlfriend named Rita who is apparently so gorgeous that, quote, who knows how many boys at this school are captivated by her beauty. So good for you, Huey. Huey took the pince-nez, a novelty item, fake plastic spectacles that clip to the nose. They might be useful as a disguise. So there's this bit in this chapter where you put that on to like act as a disguise to get into an area, and they missed an opportunity to not draw stupid little glasses on his portrait there. So the monster ends up being this giant plant that feeds on electricity, and rather than doing direct combat with it, you'll always lose if you try and do that. They're more like puzzle fights. You fight it twice, and the first time the solution is to use your ID card, which was described earlier as sharp enough to use as a weapon. You're supposed to use that to sever the monster's vines, so it just like scurries away after that. Then the second time you fight it, it goes to the local power plant. You're supposed to crank up the electricity, crank up the wattage, the power, so much that the monster explodes, which is a really cool idea, because the fights are more like solving puzzles than they are just like rolling dice like in all the rest of the chapters. This has gotta be the dumbest puzzle that I accidentally solved throughout all of the chapters. I did not need a guide, but it felt unearned when I figured out what you're supposed to do. So you're cranking the switch, right, to up the power, then the lever breaks. And what are you supposed to do with the broken lever? So my items right now, we've got an ID card, a key, a mop, a shotgun, and a shampoo bottle. Or it just says shampoo. Which one of these items do you think would be effective in solving this situation? I probably just spoiled it by saying shampoo bottle instead of just shampoo, but that's what it was. You're supposed to use the shampoo on the lever. Why? Okay, that was just a case of me just trying everything with everything. I didn't expect it to actually work, but that's the solution. You use the bottle as like the new lever, and you pull it, and then the electricity gets so strong that the monster explodes, and you live happily ever after. It really doesn't tie into much of anything with Phantasy Star 2. It's kind of a complete non sequitur. In fact, I feel like I don't hardly know anything else about this character after having played this. It was cute, don't get me wrong, tracking down this biomonster, like just going through the rooms of the school. And I like that the fight wasn't a dice roll. It was, a puzzle solving one. But I don't know. This chapter was pretty disposable. If I ever play through Phantasy Star 2 again, I'm not going to use this character because of his chapter in the text adventures. His was pretty short, too. Up until this point, each adventure has been about an hour and a half. Or the longest one total, I think, was about an hour 40. But his was only 37 minutes long. So yeah, I mean, it was easy, too, because you don't have to rely on dice rolls as much. Yeah, I don't know. Very strange chapter. Next, we have Amiya, or Anna. And she says in the original game, I am known as Guardian. Although most hunters are good, some have gone bad. I track them down. My job is to hunt evil hunters, but I can hunt anything. I dislike guns, but give me a weapon with a blade, and I am deadly. Okay, so that's basically nothing. I'm a badass chick. That's all that says. Her chapter is arguably the most simple, except for maybe Rolfs. His was pretty simple. So you're Anna the bounty hunter, and you go out to this village to bring in a hacker, who they just name Hack. Being an enthusiastic and gifted hunter, Anna had already claimed 15 bounties by the time she arrived in this remote region. This is another chapter where not much happens plot-wise. Basically, you just chase Hack around for a while until you both fall into a sand pit, and then you and Hack need to work together to get out of the sand pit. By sand pit, I guess I mean like those giant wormholes in Phantasy Star 1. That's what I'm imagining when they say sand pit, because there's no visuals. So now with newfound respect, you and Hack learn that you're not so different, and you really shouldn't bring them in because you have a heart of gold. La la la. Oh, and because it's a guy and a girl, this happens. Hack gazes at Anna. As if he could read her thoughts, Hack used his strength to move the boulder. He embraced Anna, gently pressing his lips to hers. So they kiss, and then Anna lets him go, of course, after that. Goodbye, Hack. I hope we can meet again someday. Maybe then our feelings for each other. Oh, that was it. That was the whole thought. Anna returned to her jet buggy and sent a report to the agents. Capture of Motavian Hack unsuccessful. And then you never see him again in the actual game. Womp womp. Next we have Kynes, or Kane as he's known in game, and he's another character that I didn't use at all when I was playing through Phantasy Star 2. So this is another completely new character to me, basically. And he has, without a doubt, the strangest introductory soliloquy in Phantasy Star 2. Yup, I done heard you going out after them bad uns. I can help you. I ain't much for them slimy critters, but if any machines or robots get in your way, I can bustin' them up real good. With a noticeable accent. His bio says that he's actually not very good at fixing things, which is pretty funny because it actually plays into his chapter. Because the first thing you do, this is how the chapter basically starts. The first real event is you walk down to a bar, get into a knife fight with a random guy there. Then the bartender says, hey you, Kane, since you got into a knife fight in my bar, now you need to fix the air conditioning. I know you're good with machines, so my air conditioning's out. Go over there and fix the air conditioning. So you do. Then as soon as you leave, actually, let me read exactly what it says. The building exploded behind me just after I left. By the time I turned around, all that remained of the bar was the entrance and the smoke billowing out of it. You just killed an entire crowded bar full of people. Jesus fucking Christ. So you spend most of the rest of the chapter running away from the RoboCops coming after you because you just blew up a fucking bar. You also come across a group of thugs that are plotting to destroy Mother Brain, which this was before, I guess that was cool, because that's what you do in Phantasy Star 2. That's what you end up doing, but it's painted as like a bad thing, and you're trying to stop them in this. There's also a side plot about this girl named Sue. There's like kind of a romance going on there, who of course we never see in Phantasy Star 2. So it's like you and this girl Sue running away from RoboCops until eventually you, no, I mean, I guess nothing really gets resolved. At the end, I mean, you're still running away from RoboCops. You just board a plane to leave the planet. Yeah, what happened to Sue? I mean, she's with you most of this chapter. There's a part where you get kidnapped and tied up, and then perspective actually shifts to her. You play as her for like a good third of this chapter, trying to find a way to get you out of captivity, and then she's just not in the game. Very weird that they would invent another character that you would play such an integral part in Kane's story, but we never hear mentioned again. Well, anyway, the last character you meet in Phantasy Star 2, the coolest character in Phantasy Star 2, also gets the coolest chapter of the Phantasy Star 2 Text Adventure saga. Because Sure, aka Hika as she's known in this, is awesome. Okay, so the premise is there's the Opa Opa. I don't remember if it was a statue or a painting. But anyway, you're trying to steal the ship from Fantasy Zone, which is at an art gallery in this skyscraper across the street. The whole thing takes place basically in this skyscraper, and it's really hard to like have a mental map of this place. A lot of these chapters so far haven't been that complex because there's no in-game map and it's all text, so there's no like, you know, visual landmarks or anything. You just need to like remember what room is where. And this was the one that I had the hardest time with because it's really easy for me to get mixed up what floor contained what. And there are different elevators on different, like the same floor will have multiple elevators that lead to different places. So like you can be on like the 5th floor, but if you like took a different elevator to get to the 5th floor, there would be a different set of rooms. So really this is all just like Metal Gear Solid, the Text Adventures. It's really cool. You're like evading guards. There's a bit where you get like climbing gear and you gotta like climb on the ceiling to like avoid getting detected by some like people. So you uncover a plot by like a rival team that they're also trying to steal the Opa Opa. You're in like a stealing duel with these other people to see who can get the statue first. Or maybe it was a painting. I don't know. Here's the visual, whatever, right here. It's either a they actually show you at the end what it is. So here it is. It also involves a part of you disguising yourself in like a bunny outfit, so I guess it gets points for that too. So eventually you get the statue, stash it away in your outfit, pull the fire alarm, and escape with the commotion. Another heist, well done. The next day, the Matavia Times printed the following story. Eli Osickel's masterpiece stolen. The 2 suspects are in custody, but the painting has not yet been recovered. It was a painting, not a statue. And that was the Phantasy Star 2 Text Adventures. What did I think? If it weren't for making myself like do it for the videos, honestly, I probably would have just played 1 or 2 and then called it quits. I wasn't like super engaged. I don't think reading like pure text adventures makes for great gameplay, especially in current year. But if you're a huge Phantasy Star fan, then I don't know, check them out. They're interesting. They're not total losses. They are much more bare bones than I expected before going in, but they're not like poorly designed. They're pretty user friendly. You can get through most of them without a guide. I recommend using save states though because of the random chance with the dice rolls in combat. But as I said, the only one I needed a guide for was Rudo's chapter, and they're pretty short. They're each only about an hour, so like what have you got to lose? If you're a big Phantasy Star fan, then sure, play the text adventures. So anyway, back to me again to conclude this video. Thanks, me. That pretty much covered everything. So as always, like the video, subscribe. More Phantasy Star games to come. Next time, it actually will be Phantasy Star 3. Unfortunately. We'll see. I mean, true that this is the least liked game in the entire franchise, but it can't be that bad, right? As always, shout out to the patrons. Shout out to William Robert Lee. Never trust anyone who needs a haircut. Goodbye.